So in the past, I'd seen a lot of comments talking about how the Bulls won 55 games after Jordan retired for the first time, comparing him and leaving that team and them doing well to LeBron leaving the Cavs and the Cavs doing terrible. And this is not going to be a video comparing those two departures and how the teams fared after that. I'm not going to sit here and try to say that the Bulls team was a worse supporting cast than the Cavaliers team, because I don't think it was, even though those Cavs teams were actually pretty good. I just wanted to give a little more context and dive a little bit deeper into Jordan's first retirement and the Bulls' performance after he left. So I'll try to keep this one relatively short, but there were just some interesting things I found when looking at this season. I'm sure a lot of you have, heard this narrative that Jordan isn't as valuable to the Bulls because he left and they still did good and all that. And there's a little more to it. Just to start, they are a good team. Like, the supporting cast was solid. And when Jordan retired for the first time, they didn't really have any notable departures except for him. So the rest of their team was still intact. And actually, they had a few key additions to the team for that 93-94 season. And those additions would be guys like Steve Kerr, Tony Kukoc, Pete Myers, Bill Wennington, and Luke Longley. So no one groundbreaking, no all-stars or anything like that. But these are solid role players that are going to be key pieces of the Bulls' next championship runs after Jordan gets back. So they added to their depth. They strengthened the team. Of course, we all know Pippen is a very good player. Pippen was a very good player. So was Horace Grant. And they were still on the team. They're still playing well. So, it makes sense that they had a solid year. Another thing that I found that was interesting was the team's offensive rating. So in 1992-93, their offensive rating was 112.9, good for second in the league. And in 93-94, it dropped to 106.1, which was 14th in the league. So Jordan leaving had a big impact on their offense. They were not the same offensive team at all, which is to be expected, but it's quite a big jump. Their defense was still really good. That was one of their calling cards. It was great defense. Pippen is a capable anchor to a great defensive team, which he was for this season. And another thing that was interesting was their strength of schedule. It was 22nd in the league for 1993-94. So they didn't have a really tough schedule. And the season prior, they didn't have a super tough schedule either. I think it was 18th in the league. But this year, it was even worse. So they weren't playing a super tough schedule to begin with. But yeah, for that season, these are things you got to take into account. The team honestly got even stronger, even deeper with the additions that they made. Their offense was definitely worse. And their strength of schedule wasn't all that great. Of course, they were a great team, and that's why they had a solid season. So you need a good supporting cast to win championships, absolutely. And this definitely was a good one, but they were not the same without Jordan. Obviously, they're going to be better with him. But there's just a few things to add for this season when it came to talking about Jordan's value to the Bulls. In 1994-95, the Bulls were 34-31 in the first 65 games without Jordan. And when he came back, they were 13-4 to close out the year. 47 wins, made the playoffs. And overall in that season, they had the 26th ranked strength of schedule. Granted, they did play most of the better teams in the first 3 quarters of the year when Jordan wasn't there. But when Jordan came back, they still played. The Cavs were decent. The Knicks had a good year. They beat them twice when Jordan came back. The Hornets, they beat them. Also beat them in the playoffs. They had 50 wins that year. Nothing crazy. But they were struggling this year. They did lose Horace Grant. But other than that, they had a pretty full team. Nobody really missed time. So they started to struggle a bit. Jordan came back. He struggled a bit. But helped them close out the season strong. And they ended that year 5th in net rating, but the year prior in 93-94, they were 11th in net rating. And I just mention that because in the 6 championship years when Jordan played, they were never outside the top 3 in net rating. So they took a hit, definitely. I mean, they had solid teams, they had solid years, but once again, they don't play a strong schedule. They didn't play a strong schedule the next year when they won 72 games, but they were just obviously better with Jordan coming back. But it's you need to look into these seasons a little more. Again, I'm not trying to claim that the Bulls were the Bulls were good outside of Jordan. They had a good team. Pippen is a very good player, was a very good player. It's the bottom line is you lose Jordan, you don't have a chance to make the finals or even win the finals. Obviously they're not going to win without him. They are not that good. And I see a lot of people just saying, oh, the Bulls, Jordan wasn't that valuable to the team. The Bulls just win 55 games without him. Well, the next year, they were struggling until he came back. And even the year they win 55 games, their offense is worse. The net rating's worse. The worst in a handful of years. And then once Jordan comes back, it's like they're the best team in the league again. What do you know? So it's not always going to be if player X leaves, this team is a dumpster fire. You could look into LeBron leaving. I'm going to admit I don't know too much about how that offseason went, but it's different clearly than from when Jordan left the Bulls. And again, I didn't want to compare those, and I didn't. But it's not always going to be about how terrible a team is if player X leaves. I mean, they're always going to be worse if one of the all-time greats leaves. I know that, but it's just when people say Jordan wasn't that valuable to the Bulls because they still did good without him, it's just ridiculous to say. They gained players in 93, 94. They didn't lose anyone else. You still have Phil Jackson as a coach, all that stuff. But I just wanted to provide a little bit of context. It's nothing crazy, but those claims, they didn't sit well with me, and it needs a little more looking into than just saying that Jordan wasn't that valuable. So let me know what you guys think. What'd you make of these years? But thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.